I'm sure the majority of you have seen what's going on with Evergrande, the China real estate developer conglomerate that has been forced to liquidate its assets by the Chinese court. So this is something that's been in the news for the last few years, but even earlier this year, China's biggest real estate developer, Country Garden, also defaulted on its debt. So this might be something that you're not paying a ton of attention to, but let me tell you why you should in fact pay attention to it, because it could be a world-shattering event that's around the corner. So get this, the Chinese residential real estate market is the largest asset class in the world. It's $117 trillion as an asset class. That's residential housing in China, $117 trillion. China's real estate is the vast majority of the reason why China's economy grew at such an alarming pace. Yes, it was the fastest urbanization in all of human history because they went from working on farms to working in the city. Rapid industrialization, yes, we all know that. But here's some of the nasty underbelly that not everybody knows. So unlike most countries, China's corporate bond market is over 50% real estate loans. Now you compare that to the US is only 4% real estate loans for its bond market. Then 30% of China's GDP is based off its real estate market, US 17%. Now one of the best kept secrets of China is that, everybody complains about how much money the US prints, but China actually has printed almost twice as much money as the US has printed. Now you might be confused to hear that China's in deflation right now, uncontrollable deflation, where their economy is shrinking, the cost of the goods and services are going down, but that might be a mind bender for you since you associate our money printing with the prices going up. So how could that be the case? Well, here's how that could be the case. Look at this chart of China's real estate. So this is what's called this is a metric called price to income ratio. Now you'll see at the bottom of it, New York, San Francisco, about 12. So that means 12 years of the average income is what it takes to buy a property in New York or San Francisco. So those are the two most expensive cities in America to buy real estate in. But it looks small in this chart compared to Beijing, Shanghai, where you need 42 to 47 years of the average salary in Beijing or Shanghai to buy real estate there. So what happened with China is that all of their inflation has gotten bottled up into the real estate market because the people don't trust the stock market. They're not allowed to invest in Bitcoin. They're not even allowed to move money out of the country. So compare the China stock market and the U.S. stock market. 53% of U.S. citizens own stock in the stock market, whereas in China, only 7% of the citizens own stock. If you want to know more about the things I talk about, if you feel I leave questions unanswered, if you want to ask specific questions, I encourage you to connect with me on Minnect, the app that's absolutely taking the world by storm right now. But that gets flipped when you look at real estate. Almost 90% of Chinese citizens own at least one real estate property. In the U.S., it's like 50%. But here's where this gets scary. So there's some reports that say that China has enough empty homes in its country to house the entire population twice, meaning they have 1.4 billion people in China, and there's some estimates that are saying there's almost 2 billion empty houses or apartments in China because they just build and build and build to try to prop the economy up because their economic growth is directly linked to their real estate sector. Now, that's why these companies are suddenly starting to go bankrupt, because they were just taking debt, building, expecting unlimited demand, because it was really the only investment class that the Chinese citizens felt comfortable investing in. They would just buy these second homes, leave them empty, and expect the price to appreciate. But here is where things get really, really unfortunate for these Chinese citizens. A lot of economists are saying that the degree to which the Chinese real estate is overvalued is by a factor of about 900%, meaning that the real estate in China is worth probably about 10 cents on the dollar of its face value. Now, the reason that that's catastrophic for these citizens is because 70% of Chinese citizen household wealth is tied up in real estate. So the only asset class that these people felt safe in investing in is worth 10 cents on the dollar. Now, what do you think is going to happen in China when that uncontrollable situation suddenly happens overnight? Yeah, sure, you could patch these things up with central bank tricks for, maybe even a decade, but someday the chickens are going to come home to roost, and we're starting to see the cracks in the wall right now. It's quite honestly a very sad situation because a lot of these people were so desperate to buy a home that they did this crazy thing where you put a down payment in before your house even starts getting built, pay a mortgage for 3 years, waiting for your house to get built, but then these companies, boom, go bankrupt like these last two over the last couple of years. Then the people who have put a down payment in, paid a mortgage for 3 years, have nothing. So yeah, guys, this is a pretty gloomy situation for China. I hear a lot of people saying, oh my God, China's going to be the next global superpower. The U.S. is doomed. Not so much the case. can point to a ton of factors around this. I mean, Chinese labor is too expensive now. That's what gave them the edge the past 50 years. Mexico is now U.S.'s #1 trading partner. I mean, in addition to that, I think it's more likely that China becomes fractured into several municipalities instead of becoming the next global superpower. I mean, people say the yuan could replace the dollar as the next global currency. I mean, if you look at a chart of the most used currency internationally, the yuan is at like 0.7%, whereas the dollar is at like 65%. So I don't know how people make the case for that, but it's not happening. So if you want to make a bet on if China's going to collapse, China's going to be the next world superpower, I'd put the house on China's going to collapse out of those two scenarios. I don't even necessarily think either one's definite to happen, but they're not going to be the next global superpower. I can assure you of that. If you disagree, feel free. If you disagree, I encourage you to leave a comment. If you make a compelling case, maybe we'll debate someday, maybe even on my show. Thanks for watching. Love you guys. God bless.